Vince McMahon loved to have monsters on his roster. While having a great height or physique was a big advantage, it normally never led anywhere substantial. Even for a giant like the Great Khali, a world title and victories over legends like The Undertaker wasn't enough to fulfill the potential that Vince McMahon hoped for. But the Great Khali certainly fared better than these 10 monster superstars who went nowhere despite Vince McMahon's backing. Number 10, King Mabel. 1995 was a terrible year for WWE in terms of ratings, attendance, and creativity. With the roster being shallower than any of the years before, Vince McMahon decided to get behind the 6'9", 487-pound Mabel, later known as Viscera. He was given a huge singles push that year, winning the King of the Ring tournament and receiving a WWE title shot against Diesel in the main event of SummerSlam. Diesel vs. Mabel was one of the worst main events in SummerSlam history, so it's no surprise that he lasted for only a few more months, getting buried by Diesel in an 8-second loss, losing to The Undertaker in a casket match, and being the third person eliminated from the 1996 Royal Rumble match. Number 9, Atom Bomb. Unlike others on this list, it was believed that Atom Bomb had a lot of potential as a future star. At 6'6", he fit the profile of a Vince McMahon guy and was given the gimmick of a survivor of a nuclear disaster that really happened in his hometown in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately for him, the character never connected and he only had a couple of more years left in the promotion before falling down the card and leaving in 1995. He returned to the WWE in 2001 for an invasion angle before being released 1 month later. His wrestling career bombed and he retired 2 years later in 2003. Number 8, Gene Snitsky. Gene Snitsky's debut on Raw saw him inadvertently causing Lita to have a miscarriage. That's when his character's catchphrase, "It wasn't my fault," became a thing, and because the bizarre angle went better than expected, his one-night-only appearance turned into his main roster debut. He immediately began a feud with Kane, who turned face. In hindsight, it wasn't surprising that the matches were underwhelming and that Gene Snitsky failed to live up to the expectations that Vince McMahon had for him. He spent the rest of his 4 years in WWE floundering in the lower mid-card before he requested a release in 2008. Number 7, Zeus. Zeus featured as Hulk Hogan's rival in the Vince McMahon back box office flop No Holds Barred in 1989. The plan was reportedly for WWE to take the feud until WrestleMania 6, which thankfully didn't happen, as the Ultimate Warrior would get his moment to shine. Zeus went into the world of wrestling from acting, and to no surprise, he wasn't very good at it. The Hogan vs. Zeus singles match never happened, with WWE only having them face off in tag team matches at SummerSlam and Survivor Series. Randy Savage's alliance with Zeus helped because he helped to cover the obvious weaknesses and limitations he had in the ring. It culminated in a steel cage tag team match between Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Beefcake Barber versus Randy Savage and Zeus. That would thankfully be the end of Zeus's WWE run, as Vince McMahon milked it for all it was worth. Number 6, Luther Reigns. Luther Reigns had a memorable run for a little while in WWE when he debuted as Kurt Angle's assistant when the Olympic gold medalist was the SmackDown general manager. He would align with Mark Jindrak, the person who was reportedly considered for Evolution instead of Batista. The new Team Angle had a moderate level of success, with Luther Reigns being pushed as a legitimate powerhouse and a threat to The Undertaker, who eventually lost to twice. After losing a feud to The Big Show in 2005, he was relegated to Velocity, and his creative differences with Paul Heyman led him to requesting a release from WWE. Number 5, Ezekiel Jackson. It's hard to believe that the ECW lineage ends with Ezekiel Jackson. At 6'4" and a 309-pound frame, Ezekiel Jackson was quickly pushed by Vince McMahon, and it only took him 9 months to become the ECW champ. It was a controversial choice, however, as everybody believed that the lineage should have ended with Christian and not Ezekiel Jackson. Joining Wade Barrett's core faction and becoming Intercontinental Champion wasn't enough, and WWE's big plans for him fell apart as he suffered injuries that led him to leaving the company in 2014. Number 4, Mason Ryan. Mason Ryan had the look of a great big powerhouse, with many calling him the next Batista. After 3 years in developmental, Ryan was thrust into the spotlight as a member of CM Punk's New Nexus. But the comparisons to Batista did no good, and it was clear early on that Mason Ryan, despite looking like $1 million, was called up far too soon. He wound up in NXT in 2011 and was reportedly considered to be a replacement for Roman Reigns in The Shield in early 2014 when the breakup plans were put in place. It never happened though, and he was released from WWE a few months later. Number 3, Kurrgan. Kurrgan was a 7-foot giant who The Undertaker took under his wing. He regularly gave him advice when he joined the WWE in 1997 about how to work like a big man and hoped that they would have a major program with each other down the line. Unfortunately, Kurrgan wasn't handled well and didn't live up to the hype. It was perhaps a full circle moment when his last match in WWE was against The Undertaker on Sunday Night Heat, where he put the dead man over on his way out. Number 2, Nathan Jones. Nathan Jones was considered so green that he had to be taken out of his WrestleMania match. WWE debuted Nathan Jones in late 2002, and he had a quick character change by becoming The Undertaker's protege. While he was supposed to compete in a tag team match at WrestleMania alongside The Undertaker, WWE decided to nix it because of Jones's lack of progress and turned the match into a handicap match featuring Taker against A-Train and Big Show. He was sent back to developmental and re-debuted with a new character, but due to WWE's brutal travel schedule, he quit. Number 1, Giant Gonzalez. While Giant Gonzalez was billed as 8 feet tall, he was 7'7" in reality. That still makes him the tallest wrestler in WWE history. Although he lasted longer in WCW, he is remembered more for his 10-month stint in WWE, where he wore a cheesy bodysuit and had mutton chops that would put Wolverine to shame. More specifically, he's remembered as the 3rd victim of The Undertaker's legendary WrestleMania streak after Jimmy Snuka and Jake the Snake Roberts. His physique proved to be a major disadvantage as he was never able to progress in the ring and left in October of 1993, the same year he joined.